What's on your mind? I mean that literally. What's on your mind? Because in Parshat Tetzaveh, we get a very detailed description of all of the clothing, all of the sacred vestments of the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, that he's supposed to wear while performing his duties. And in the list of description of his tunic and his robe and his sacred undergarments and the breastplate that he wears and the shoulder guards and his turban, we get a description of the tzitz zahav tahor, a small golden plate that will be worn across his forehead, held up by a blue thread, and embossed on that golden plate, on that tzitz, will be the words, Kadosh Ladonai, consecrated to God. Now, our commentators immediately point out that the reason that he's wearing this tzitz, that he has this thing on his forehead, is to help him focus what's on his mind. That when he enters the holiest part of the temple, the Holy of Holies, the Kadosh Kadoshim, that he needs to keep his thoughts pure. He needs to keep his intentions focused, because he is entering into the divine presence. And not only that, but he's got a really, really important job. When he's in there, he is carrying with him responsibility for the entirety of the Jewish people. Now, I might say, I'm not the Kohen Gadol, and you're not the Kohen Gadol. So, this is a nice piece of history, but do I really need to know these tiny details about what the Kohen Gadol wore, including this little gold plate of the tzitz? Well, the Torah is very clear that while there is a certain group of people who are at that point historically the Kohanim, that the nature of the Jewish people is to be Mamlechet Kohanim, V'goy Kadosh, that we are a kingdom of priests, a kingdom of Kohanim, and a holy nation. And so, it's not such a stretch, and not very surprising, when we see commentaries like the ethical commentary of the Shnei Luchot HaBrit compare the tzitz that the Kohen Gadol wore to the black boxes of tefillin that every Jew has had access to wearing since time immemorial and wears until even today. When we wear the tefillin on our heads in that same spot that the Kohen Gadol wore his, it does exactly for us what it did for him. The first is it reminds us that we too are holy and consecrated to God. And that we, just as much as any person who's ever come before us, even the Kohen Gadol, that we have access to the divine presence, that we can enter into God's midst. But when we do so, when we seek to be elevated people with a Holy Spirit, that we do so not just as ourselves and for ourselves, but we carry with us the responsibility for all of our fellow human beings. This Sunday is going to be recognized internationally as the Worldwide Wrap, and it's a day set aside for people to acquaint and to reacquaint themselves with the mitzvah of tefillin. I invite you, and anyone you'd like, man or woman, 13 or 103, whether it's the last time you put on tefillin was this morning, 50 years ago, or never in your life. Come and check out the mitzvah of tefillin. Have someone gently guide you through the steps of putting it on, so that you can have this same reminder and added holiness to your life, that we gather in community. And then we'll know exactly what's on your mind. Shabbat Shalom.